So the series composition of Skate the Infinity is made by the person who's created one of my personal favorite shows, Code Geass, and that alone got me pretty excited for a skateboarding anime that had animation that just kind of knocked me away, similar to when I first experienced Haikyuu with a volleyball anime. No interest in volleyball, but the animation alone got me interested in the matches, and then as I watched, I really enjoyed the characters. So I was hoping, with the level of quality that the visuals are already kind of projecting through the trailers and the promotional material, if they had good characters, this could be another sports anime that really impresses me, which generally doesn't really happen. I'm just not a big sports guy, real life, anime. For the most part, just not my cup of tea, but skateboarding. Something that I have a bit more of a connection to in the spring and summer. I do like to participate here and there in parks and things like that, so I was like, you know what? This one might be able to do it for me. This one might be the next thing that's really going to impress me, and goddamn do they deliver. Reki is one of the main characters in this show, and then we have another transfer student who comes from Canada, which is nice to see as someone who lives in Canada to actually see a Canadian in an anime, which rarely ever happens. Reki was kind of like the most normal of the characters. He's someone who kind of fit what I thought his personality was going to be. Lang, on the other hand, I really liked his kind of like nonchalant, doesn't really talk too much, but is a snowboarder who then becomes a skateboarder in a pretty non-usual way. It's a pretty weird way he becomes it, by like taping his feet on the board and just doing things that no one can predict. This show really did impress me with his characters. Reki by himself was just kind of like the energetic kind of like gun-ho. He's not the best skateboarder, but he definitely has skill, and you can see him rise to the top over the season for sure. But he by himself wasn't enough that I was like, oh, this is probably going to be more of a fun anime rather than something character-driven. But once he started interacting with Langa, this show really took off for me. I mean, you can look at the quality of just the entertainment value alone. The visuals are insane. It really does put you into the perspective like you're a camera, you're like a GoPro, just a foot back from the characters, following them along this very dangerous path that they can go up to like 60 kilometers an hour, they said. It very much looks and feels like real skateboarding, even if it does have this anime gimmick and these like kind of like gangs, it feels like. And you got this villain who will throw like little bombs at you when you're skateboarding. It just feels very entertaining, and that's kind of self-explanatory. We will talk more about it. But the thing that impressed me was that I actually like the characters. Reki and Langa together, I think they just had a really interesting bonding moment right off the bat, because he's a transfer student and he's like, oh, he picks up his board, he tries to skateboard, falls on his ass, which is pretty much what's gonna happen. And just the mockery, the kind of flattery, it's fun. They both work at the same shop. You just feel like, okay, at least there's a connection. At least there's more dialogue than just skateboard, downhill skateboarding, no helmets, it's dangerous, it's literally life or death for what they're doing. It feels very much like what I thought it was going to be. Once I really got going though, and the Langa stuff is what turned this into a very compelling narrative, because this is a guy who came from Canada, who's used to snow, and depending on where he was in Canada, he probably experienced quite a bit of it year-round. So the idea of him being a very professional snowboarder, I was curious because I thought what was going to happen with him was that he was going to, he would start as a beginner and then over the season become a pro. Which I was a little concerned with because realistically that should happen, but him being a natural snowboarder, well yeah, they're vastly different, there is kind of like, the fundamentals will kind of transfer over, the difference being one's attached to the board and one isn't, and I guess if they don't have any rules against taping his feet to the board, maybe over the course of the show he'll eventually remove the tape, then it makes sense that he could, within his first real match, the difference of falling off the board on a standing still, no movement whatsoever, versus him being kind of a pro while kind of skateboarding, it does make sense and it does feel realistic because, well, if he's been naturally snowboarding his entire life or a good portion of it and he can do these insane things, well, yes, there's certain moments like when he's trying to move like it's a snowboard and the wheels hit the ground, yeah, that's probably gonna naturally, realistically throw you and kill you. In anime, you can have fun where he can correct that behavior before it's kind of a fatal crash or anything like that. To me, without a doubt, Langa is the star of the show right now, but seeing Reki's kind of eyes light up, impressed with what he just saw, I feel like the dynamic between these two growing friends is going to be really impressive. One with high energy, one with low energy, kind of bringing out this middle ground. While that type of design isn't the most original, I also don't feel like it's all that common anymore in anime. And it's mostly common in stuff like sports anime. Like I mentioned Haikyuu, you can have the two main characters there, one very high energy, one kind of low energy, and they kind of bring out the greatness in each other. So I think both are going to teach the other into becoming these incredible skateboarders. And I mean, just watching the show purely for entertainment value alone, you're gonna have a blast watching it. The music does a great job at kind of elevating this kind of punk scene, but the animation and when they go into the explosive fireworks scene at the very end, it's drop dead gorgeous, and the interesting idea of having a foreigner who's used to snowboarding doing these really interesting moves and how he navigates very dangerous traversal. It's very fun, it's just energetic, and it feels vastly different. When we see sports anime in any anime season, and say, yeah, this is probably going to be good because this story hook's different, but generally we say it's another sports anime. Skateboarding really hasn't been done, and if it has been done, it's been quite some time and probably wasn't even close to me in the quality that we're currently seeing in terms of the production. This show feels different. It's actually unique for this season, and for a stacked anime season with as many promising sequels and even hyped up new entries, an original skateboarding anime may go under the radar, but I firmly believe could be one of the strongest first episodes that we're probably going to watch this season. It's different, it's beautifully done, the opening slaps. At first, like the first 10 or 15 seconds of the opening, it kind of gave me a Cowboy Bebop feel, and then it kicks in and just becomes its own vastly different and stunning opening. Everything about it just feels so fun, and while the fun factor definitely feels like that's going to be the defining moment of any given episode if there's a good skateboarding match in it, I do feel like the balance between Langa and our other main character, Reki, is going to be stunning. It's going to have this good contrast that will be able to have these ups and downs, and the idea of someone who knows how to skate and also likes making skateboards versus someone who likes to snowboard. I think it'll be very interesting if over the course of the show, whether it's going to happen very quickly or over the long term, him not having to attach himself to the board, what that will do, or if maybe this guy, if he actually lost the match, if he's going to say, no more, you have to always just, you can't attach your feet to the board, it's cheating or something like that. That could be an interesting narrative hook. There's actually a lot of possibility with the story, but honestly, the characters are fun. Just look at the mobs that you see and just how they're just different, they're stylized. It feels grungy, it feels different, and it feels exciting. When I was doing my What Will I Watch podcast, my friend Ryan and I were talking about how, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, one of the things that defines that game is the soundtrack when you play it, and I'm really hoping that the more matches that we experience, the more the music's going to continue to elevate and really bring out the atmosphere just as well as the gorgeous presentation did. Because there's a lot of possibilities to have one of the stunning and most badass soundtracks of the season if this show really runs with it, and I'd be surprised if this has a lackluster soundtrack, because based on the glimpses that we've heard so far, it's already quite stunning, but then again, the music across the board so far this season has been killer, so I guess time will tell, but at least visually we know for sure that this is locked and loaded by the looks of it. This show, I really feel like has a lot of potential. I could easily see this being slept on. People watch the first episode, they're like, oh, it's really good, but then they get caught up on all the sequels. I hope that's not going to be the case. This is a show that I think is going to benefit from airing on Saturdays, I think, just because it's the weekend for people and not as many shows air on Saturday because they're pretty much spread apart where usually it's always the weekend where everything airs. I'm hoping people give this a shot. I loved it. I thought it was going to be very entertaining, but it actually surprised me with Langa and just what he offers in terms of a narrative. And yeah, maybe I'm biased because I'm also from Canada, but it really did just tickle my fancy and I'm very excited for more. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your favorite moment, and what did you think about the entertainment value that this show brought to the table? If you enjoyed the video, of course, like, share, your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.